everybody, and welcome to North London Calling, a brand new Arsenal podcast powered by Sports News Blitz. My name is Edward Moss. I am the content editor for Transfer News Blitz, one of the sites under the News Blitz sort of umbrella. I'm joined by Olly, if you want to introduce yourself, mate.
Yeah, I'm Olly Wilson, and I am part of the marketing team who are kind of in a different section of that umbrella, but the same umbrella with SIP Media Solutions and Sports News Blitz.
Yeah, we're both long-suffering Arsenal fans, so you've probably got the two most pessimistic people who support Arsenal out there. So buckle yourselves in for sort of like a weekly therapy session about Arsenal, basically. But this is sort of like
that's probably the best place to take it.
Yeah. So this is almost like our pilot episode. We're doing a season review for the 2024-25 season. Olly, what are your thoughts on it overall, really?
Yeah, that's a very broad question, mate. And I think you'll agree it's been a difficult season. We've not won anything again, which is really, really frustrating. I think we've come very close, really. Like you look at the Premier League, finished second. In the Cup, lost to Newcastle, the eventual winners. PSG, we lost to them, also the eventual winners. So, there's a lot to be said, and at least we lost to the winners, or we came runners-up in the Premier League. But yeah, it's a difficult one to take for sure. I think there's lots of positives to be taken. I always try and focus on the positives. I think there's a lot more positives nowadays than what there were. So, as much as it's not been a great season, it's definitely not been a bad season either. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's been a very unlucky season. I think we've had quite a few injuries and some results just haven't really gone our way. So I think that's the way I'd kind of sum up our year, really, is unlucky. The timing's not been great. I think Mikel Arteta said it himself a couple of times. Like, obviously, if you took the form from the 2023-24 season or the season before that into this year, we'd have won the league. It's as simple as that. And it's all about timing. And I do believe that next year we can go on, we can win the Premier League, maybe even win the Champions League. One of the two. It would be nice, obviously, but yeah, I think unluckiness has been the theme of our year, really.
Yeah, I think you look at a lot of the other teams who have had realistically bad season but have still won a trophy. And then you look at where we are. We've had realistically a good season, but with no trophy to show for it. I think that's quite a frustrating point, really. I think silverware is the only thing we're lacking. I think the fact we're challenging is always a good thing, and it's always the bare minimum. I think we should expect as Arsenal fans to be up there in the contention for silverware. So yeah, I think we've not done particularly well with getting to those sort of latter stages of the cups and the latter. Well, I guess we have kind of got to the latter stages of the Champions League, but I think we definitely should have pushed Liverpool for the title a lot harder than what we did. I think we had the most draws in the whole Premier League, actually, other than Everton, second most draws in the league. I think that tells you a lot. And just by saying we drew a lot, you could say we could have won majority of those games, but there was also some of those games we would have lost. But I think we were closer to winning those games than we were losing those games that we did draw. So in terms of the Premier League, I think it was quite disappointing, really. Like you say, those tallies from past few seasons, we'd have won the league. We've kind of faltered in that aspect, and injuries is a big part of that. And you could say the lack of potential strategic recruitment in the summer that potentially led to having some of those injury problems and being a bigger issue than what they could have been if we recruited differently in the summer. But hindsight's great, isn't it? Hindsight's a beautiful thing, So if buts or maybes, but at the end of the day, I think you look at a lot of the players that we have had come in and do well, and we'll get to that in a second. I think to overall analyze our season, we break it down into the individuals, because some individuals have done well, and as you'll definitely agree with me, some individuals have not done very well.
Yeah.
So to begin with, I'll throw it over to you, David Raya. What are we thinking about David Raya having done this season?
I think he's had a great season, to be honest. I think he's obviously won the Golden Glove, shared it with Matt Sells from Nottingham Forest, I believe. But no, I think he had an excellent season. Obviously, it's his first kind of season as a permanent Arsenal player because he was only on loan last season. But I think at times last season he looked a little bit shaky when he was on the ball, and a couple of his passes, when he got the ball right at the back of the, when he's trying to play out, you think, oh my God, like your heart's in your mouth. But this year he's been superb really for me. I think he's been one of the best keepers in the Premier League, one of the best keepers in Europe, especially with the ball at his feet. So, I think he's had a superb season.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I completely agree. I think to score it out of 10, I'd give him a solid 8. I agree with you in terms of like one of the best in the league, and if not maybe in Europe. You look at the Champions League team of the season, it went to Donnarumma, who obviously won it, which is fair enough, and he was very good in those last 2 games that they played. But I think if you can look at all the stats all you want, really, and I've done a little bit of that. Raya prevented 5.9 goals in the Champions League run-in. Donnarumma prevented 1.7. So, yeah, Donnarumma was part of the team that won it. But, you look at the individual, you never know. If Raya was in that team, they'd have conceded less. And Raya conceded less than Donnarumma did in the Champions League. So, I'm just putting it out there. And like you said, obviously, it goes without saying, Raya's a lot better with his feet than Donnarumma is.
Yeah. Like I say, to be fair, I think Donnarumma was just like a different beast in the Champions League. Like, fair enough, he obviously deserved to kind of win the personal accolade in that position. But yeah, no, I think Raya definitely deserves a lot of praise, especially, I think prior to like Aaron Ramsdale, for example, we've kind of struggled for a decent keeper like that's actually quite reliable. So it's a nice change. It's a nice change.
Yeah. And a very different point of view, I imagine, we'll have about our backup keeper this season, Neto. Yeah, I'll throw that straight over to you to see what you think. Neto, what do you reckon?
You know what? Out of 10, I'm going to slap him a solid 6. I mean, he barely played. I think he played like one game, but I mean, he's done what a backup's meant to do, really, isn't he? Like he's come in, he's obviously pushed David Raya, kind of helped him get to that next level. Because I mean, I listen to a lot of like the Ben Foster podcast. He's obviously, kind of a goalkeeping legend in the Premier League, and he's always on about how important a number 2 is. And I think that before I listened to that podcast, I didn't really know about that, to be honest. So I think Raya's done so well, but obviously Neto has been there in the background, sort of behind the scenes, supporting him as well. So I think he's played like handful of games, if that. Like, you can't really give him much of a rating, can you? But I think he's exactly what you want a backup to be, reliable when he's come in, and that's about it, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that was a lot more positive than I was expecting, to be honest. I think a lot of the stuff that you said much, but the one game he did play was against Girona away, and he got, I think, a 5.8 rating from SofaScore for that game. One error leading to goal, and we lost. We won 2-1. So we'd have had a clean sheet without the keeper. I mean, that's what some people would say. Granted, he did make 2 saves in that game, so without a keeper, we would have conceded more. But I agree with you. It's an interesting point in the importance of having a competent backup keeper as someone who is going to challenge in that way. And I think it's interesting to go from Ramsdale as that backup to Neto as that backup. I think Ramsdale profile is a bit more similar to Raya in terms of style and play and the ability with his feet, whereas Neto is more of a natural shot stopper. So again, that might have been the reason why David Raya has had such a good season in that aspect, because he knows he doesn't have to compete with anyone with his feet. It's competing with the shot stopping element of the game. So yeah, it's an interesting point. I wouldn't have thought about it from that point of view, to be fair. I think I gave him a solid 3 out of 10. But with what you said, I think you were a lot nicer to him than what I was. So that does make sense. So
It
the
is
next player,
only downhill from here, though, for me. I am the iron fist is going to come down for a few of the other people that have been bit part.
Okay, no, I like that. I like a little bit of controversy. So next up, and I think you've said the Iron Fist. I think I can predict potentially a bit of an Iron Fist coming here with a lot of the narrative on social media is with Saliba. So before I let you put the Iron Fist potentially on Saliba, we'll see. But I've gone with a 7 out of 10, and he was voted in the fan team of the season, which is why I think potentially your take, and I'll agree with you on it, might be a little bit of an Iron Fist take, because I feel like he hasn't been the same Saliba that we see as Arsenal fans. I think we have high standards for him because we know how good he can be. I don't think he's quite hit that this year. Parts of this year, and I think that was one thing he was so good at was his consistency. But again, like you compare him to the likes of other players in Europe, more interceptions, more clearances, more blocks, and was dribbled past less than Bastoni, who obviously got to the final of the Champions League and was in the team of the season for the Champions League. So again, something could be said for that. But again, go on, I'll pass it over to you. What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, I think you make an interesting point that he's not sort of hit the heights that he has in previous years, and I do agree with that. Um, he's one that gets away with a bit for me because obviously I grew up on the likes of like Jonathan Dojerue and Philippe Senderos, so I'm not used to having someone who's consistently so good in the team really. Like I say, I don't think he's been as consistently good. I think that has been a little bit overshadowed when he's been next to Gabriel, but especially when he got injured and Jakub Kiwior came in, I think he's been caught out a little bit. Like I was worried when Jakub Kiwior came in, for example, against like Real Madrid, I found it was Saliba making the mistakes that you'd almost expect of Kiwior. Looking at like the goal at the Bernabeu that we conceded, where he just gives it straight away. So um, I'm going to agree with the 7 out of 10 because I think overall he's been good. And I think it really does attest to how good he is that we're kind of being this harsh on him. But I think he's had an all right season. He's been okay.
Yeah, good. So the Iron Fist is still there. He's not got it out and whacked Saliba with the Iron Fist just yet. Moving on to someone who personally I absolutely love him as a person at our club, the personality he brings and what he stands for. He was one of the first actual players I had on their name on the back of an Arsenal shirt, and it's Kieran Tierney.
Oh, Kieran Tierney, what a man!
What do you reckon?
You know what? Yeah, big fan of Kieran Tierney. Obviously, he's had sort of a bit part to play, hasn't he, this year? He's not sort of have played too regularly, but I tell you what, he's the model professional. When slapping that left wing, he's gone and done a job. He's arguably been better than Trossard and Sterling, but we'll get on to those two at some point. But wherever he's been asked to play, he's gone and done a job. And I was quite sad to see him leave at the end of the season because he's one of them that he's just a fan favorite, isn't he? No, I don't think he's one of them footballers that no one hates. Like everyone loves Kieran Tierney, obviously bar like Tottenham fans maybe, but I think yeah, he's a good player. He's coming, he's done well. I'm just waffling now, but I'll pass it over to you. If I had to rate him, I'd honestly give him a 6. No, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to give him a 7. Just because he's left, I'll give him a 7.5. I'll stop talking before I go up any higher. 7.5.
That's fair enough, mate. I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of him. It was like the bringing the Tesco bag to the training ground, and it's winter, and he's in his shorts. I was like, that's me. Like that's us. He's one of us. And so I've always resonated with that. Unfortunately, I agree with you. It's not really been great for him as an individual this season. He's played in 13 games, only started 2. He did get in the team of the week in game week 38. But yeah, again, missed 12 games from injury this season. But here's a fun stat for you that we can take to the ground with this one. Tierney never got tackled or intercepted this season, despite how many games he played. Let's not mention that again. Just Kieran Tierney never got tackled or intercepted this season. That's the headline for this podcast today. But on a bit of a kind of a similar note, another player who's had a lot of injuries, 17 games missed through injury this season, and it's Ben White. I think I've gone with a solid 5 out of 10 for Ben White, purely just because he's not really been fit enough to play many games. When he has, he's played all right. He's done the job, but not the same level as the amazing Ben White that I know he has been in the past. And one thing that worries me is, will he be get to that same level again? And it's not always a guarantee. And I think we've got quite lucky in terms of the players who have got injured and have come back and not sustained a massive long-term drop-off in form. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, but I am going to be a little bit harsher on Ben White, to be honest. Again, love him. I think he's a superb player, and obviously, like since he's joined the club from Brighton, I think he's been amazing. And obviously, I know that he's had an injury this year, and it's tough. But I've just not been that impressed by him when he's played. And obviously, I know we're gonna. I keep mentioning players we'll get onto, but like Jurrien Timber has been superb, so it's really hard to sort of dislodge someone who's in such good form. But I don't know, when he has been given opportunities and when he has been subbed on. I've just not been. It's a little bit similar to how you say that he's not been the old Ben White. He's not got back to where he was, and it is a bit of a concern of whether he can. Hopefully, going into next season with like a full pre-season under his belt, he will be back. Obviously, it will be interesting to see if he can get back into the team, because, like I say, Jurrien Timber's been incredible, really, and it's going to take a lot to dislodge him, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's a cause for concern, and to get on to a more positive note, we'll talk about a player who's done really well this season, who I think you'll agree, Gabriel. I think Gabriel's been our standout defender, bar potentially Jurrien Timber. I don't know how much of a Timber fan you are. Gabriel, I've gone with an 8.5. In the Arsenal team, he's got the most accurate long balls per 90 with 2.2, and the most blocks per 90 at 1.1. I think he's missed 10 games through injury, but I still think he's been our standout performer, really. For me, anyway, I think I agree with you. Eventually, we'll get on to Timber. We know you'll want to talk about Timber a fair bit, but Gabriel, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to get on to Timber, but yeah, Gabriel, what a player! What a player! Like I say, he's come into his own this year. I think a lot of people, like, obviously Williams-Lew's been so good that, as he's known as the Rolls Royce, isn't he? But Gabriel does the dirty work. Like, he makes a block, he makes a tackle, and he's up, he's celebrating, he loves it. And as a fan, I love that. I love to see the passion. I love to see it. He goes through someone, he makes a last-ditch challenge, and he's up for it. And he's got a bit about him. He's got the kind of the dark arts. He's a bit dirty. Like, you see his feud with Haaland. I like that. I like someone who's got a bit about him that's not going to get sort of pushed around. And I know I'm not maybe talking about his playing style at the minute, because I'm on other stuff, but obviously on the pitch as well, like actually playing football, he's actually been very good as well. I think it's been his best season in an Arsenal shirt. Obviously, he was, technically speaking, kind of like the first big player Mikel Arteta brought in at the start of his sort of reign. So, to kind of see the development of him go from someone who was at the start a little bit shaky, he's grown into one of the best defenders in the Premier League, and that is just a fact. I think he's easily inside the top 5. And one important note that I'll say before I pass back to you is his heading, his aerial ability. Oh my God, that first half of the season before Christmas, I mean, he had teams in the Premier League scared to death. They were kicking it out for a throw instead of a corner. So I'll pass that back to you, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's because of him where we get called Stoke City. Just because he's that good in the air, we're known as Stoke City now. Um, but again, like he's that good. He gets the rival fans that rattled just because he's that. So it's not even the players that are scared; it's the fans that are scared of him, and they'll hide the fact that they're scared of Gabriel, and they'll just call us Stoke City. They'll label the whole club Stoke. Um, but yeah, we won't get too much into rattling rival fans too much this early on. Um, so the next player we'll get on to, who we've touched on a little bit, being really good in those sort of Champions League, the later stages when Gabriel did get injured, and it's Kiwior, who I was trying to find some interesting stats. Some I've chucked out already, but this one's on par with the Tierney one. Kiwior has got 100% shot accuracy this season. Granted, it's based off only having had one shot. So again, that's the subheading. Kiwior had 100% shot accuracy. I like Kiwior. I think he's great. I think he can easily play on the left back, the left centre back, and even at times I've seen him play at the right centre back role. And I think a player we got from, I think it was like Venezia or something like that, somewhere in the Italian league. And he's come straight in and adapted really, really well. I think he's a solid player. He's not going to be a player who's going to be competently competing for a starting place in that team, but he's a player if we bring him in the later stage of a game, he'll see that game out quite confidently. But again, in those Champions League games before we were going in Real Madrid, like you, I was like, oh, it's Kiwior instead of Gabriel. This might be quite tricky. And he was more composed than Saliba was at the time, which that says a lot about Kiwior and his personality and his professionalism to take this on as a job and do the best of it. What do you reckon? What do you think of Kiwior?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because, like you touched on, he's not someone that's going to be pushing for a starting spotlight. You've got to be someone special to kind of dislodge Saliba and Gabriel now, I think. But what he does is he does his job very well as a backup. I think coming into this season, for me personally, I thought his time at Arsenal was up because obviously not necessarily been great. He'd not got a lot of minutes, and obviously quite a few Serie A sides were looking at him to take him back. I think it was actually, I want to say Spezia, that if that's how you pronounce
Yeah,
it, that he was signed from. Um, but a lot of those were poking around, and I think they still are, to be fair. But I have to admit, my opinion has been changed. He's changed my mind on him. Like I say, that sort of Champions League run, that last sort of stretch of 10 games where he's been in, he's done well. He's done very well, and he is a versatile player. Um, and I think like you touched on his professionalism to kind of block out the noise because I know we laugh and joke, but I was seeing a lot of people on like social media that were like head in hands, like, oh my god, it's Kiwior against Bellingham, Mbappe, Rodrigo, Vinny Jr. And he's proved everyone wrong. I think he had a very solid season. Um, if I had to rate him out of 10, I'd give him a solid 7, happily.
yeah, yeah. No, I didn't say mine, but I literally got it written down here. 7 out of 10 for him as well. Um, so moving on to a player who's I think got mixed opinions about him. There's rumours about him leaving. There's rumours about the role he's going to play for us next season. And I've got to be honest, I've not exactly been too impressed with how he's done this season. And that player is Zinchenko. He's missed 7 games through injury, pretty much like every other player we've already mentioned and will mention. He's missed a fair few games through injury. Um, I think when he has played, he's played a lot at left back, which is his conventional position. But I think we've seen him play that inverted fullback, and I think he'd naturally be a midfielder a lot better in the current system we've got, especially with the left back cover we've got at the moment. I think he would see more game time there, and I think, yeah, looking at where he play next season, I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not too inspired about how his season's gone with us this season so far. What do you think?
No, I totally agree. I think he's been dismal. I think he's been dismal. I think going back a couple of years, I think Arsenal signed a few players that were kind of to take them in between the level. Like we were obviously sort of teetering round, challenging for top four, and we wanted to get up to that Man City and Liverpool level. And we brought in the likes of Aaron Ramsdale, Gabriel Jesus, Alexander Zinchenko that were very good for us at the time, and they've obviously served us well throughout the years. But now that we're at that level, they're not up to par, and they've sort of got to be moved on. And I think Zinchenko is a good example of that. Yeah, I mean he's all right. He's not necessarily, set the world alight or done anything terribly wrong, but I do think his time at Arsenal's up. I think if you can get 15, 20 million for him, I'll drive him to the airport myself. Yeah, I've not really got much else to say on him. It's not been his best campaign, but in respect to him, he's been a good servant for the club since he joined. So I will not necessarily smash him down with the iron fist, but I will give him a little tap.
Ooh, I'm worried for whoever's going to get this iron fist. It's going to be absolutely brutal. I mean, I don't think it'll be this next player, but again, it's the consistent theme of, well, this one's a bit different. This is Tomiyasu, who's played 6 minutes this season. So I don't imagine he'll get the iron fist because poor guy's only played 6 minutes. So it's kind of hard to rate those 6 minutes based on what they've actually been doing. So yeah, it's a difficult one to really rank. I don't really know how to rank that out of 10. What's your thoughts on it?
He's played 6 minutes, but what a 6 minutes it was. I'd give him 10 out of 10 personally. No, yeah, it's tough because he's obviously suffered quite heavily with injuries, hasn't he, Tomiyasu? And it's one of them frustrating ones because he is actually very good. I think he's quite an underrated player when he's fit, but he just can't seem to stay fit. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to give him a rating or to kind of rip into him. But it's one of them looking into the summer. I mean, I don't think he'll have any takers this year, but I think if his problems, carry on into next year with keeping fit and injuries, is he one to move on?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I can't remember off the top of my head how much we paid for him. I don't imagine it was too much, but again, I can't imagine us getting much of a hefty fee. I think we look to get a return on that. I don't think we'll be able to push for much more. But yeah, I'm not going to give my opinion on this next player first. I'm going to hand it straight over to you. It's Jurrien Timber. I'm going to let you go, mate.
Oh, Yuri Timber. Yeah, I've been waiting for this one. As much as I think Gabriel's been incredible, I've got to give my defender of the year, Yuri Timber, for me. I think he's been unbelievable. He's been surreal. I think he's been shifted at left back, at right back, even the odd occasion at centre back. Not often, but he has played there. And you know what? Pick me out a bad Yuri Timber game because I think you'll struggle. I think he's really good, and he's another one of them players. I mean, I've got kind of a soft side for the ones that sort of are a little bit not necessarily emotional, but they show their passion. They make a tackle, they make a block, and they're up. They celebrate. They've got a bit about them. They don't get pushed about, and that's Yuri and Timber. He's solid defensively. He's great going forwards. I don't want to kind of hog the spotlight on him, but yeah, very very impressed. I would give him a 9 out of 10. My highest rating so far, 9 out of 10. I'll pass it back to you.
9 out of 10. Wow, I went with 8.5. It's not far off, but I didn't think you were going to bring out the nines this early. But yeah, fair play. I mean, top 80% in the number of successful passes, top 86% touches in the opponent's box, dribble past every 0.03 game, which is better than 92% of the entire Premier League. So those stats and that monologue from yourself does show how well he has done. And considering those stats, he has played in those different positions. It is just a testament to how well he's done. And like we talked on Ben White, maybe potentially not being ever seeing the same sort of levels post injury. You look at Jurrien Timber, had the whole of last season out, and you wouldn't have been able to tell by how he's played this year. Like he's been consistently fit, he's been consistent on the pitch. I don't like it. It's very very strange because you usually see after ACLs it takes a long time for people to come back and perform at the same level. And I guess he would have had a full preseason to prepare for this season. But again, like from the minute go, has been absolutely on it the entire time, and there's not been any let up. I think the level of what's the word I'm looking for? Urgency. That's the word. The level of urgency he has when he plays. Like he's never stood wasting time. He's got so much energy and, like you say, passion as well. And fans are going to love players who show passion because they see themselves within the player. So, and that's what you want, isn't it? Football is entertainment at the end of the day. If the players are showing that passion and showing they're enjoying what they're doing, we're going to enjoy watching it even more. So yeah, Jurien Timber, 8 out of 0.5, but he's not getting my 9. There's one player who gets my 9, and we'll see later on who that's going to be. Next up, we've got Calafiori. So what do you think to Calafiori? How do you think his season's been? I think this could be an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. It's he's a bit hot and cold, isn't he, Calafiori? Like you can pick out a few good moments. You know, his goal against Manchester City, incredible for a left back. But again, he obviously his first season. You've got to kind of give him that and take that into consideration. But he's sort of been hot and cold, hasn't he? He's suffered a lot of injuries. He's been in and out of the team again. Not to bring him up again. Jurien Timber has kind of kept him out of the team, as has Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's another one that I'll go on a passionate rant about soon. But yeah, it's been tough for him to get minutes. It's been tough to him, to get into the team. But there's definitely a player in there. I think he's definitely worth kind of keeping around, and I think he's another one, a little bit like Kiwior, where he can play in the middle, he can play left back. He's versatile, so I think going forward he is going to be a good addition. But it has been a little bit underwhelming, in my opinion, this year.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I think there was a lot of hype around him because he went and played with Italy, didn't he? And played quite well over the summer. I remember seeing loads of thirst trap videos on TikTok with him with his long curly hair and stuff like that. So that went and did the rounds. There was a lot of expectation when he first came, and he has struggled for fitness at times as well, which won't help. But again, that there is those flashes, isn't there? There is those flashes of brilliance that he does have in his locker. And I think, I don't know if this is a fair comparison. I'd love to get what you think on this. I think obviously different positions, but I think he's very similar to Darwin Núñez in the terms of on his day he can be the best player on the pitch, but he also has that error in him and that lack of concentration at times. So I don't know. It feels like there might be a bit of a comparison there in terms of how they play. It could be just the long hair that could be confusing me, to be honest. What do you think? Do you
Yeah,
reckon I've got something there, or is it just long hair tax?
Yeah, no, I think the long hair might have something to do with it, but I can see where you're coming from. I can see the point you're making that when he's good, he's good, but when he's bad, like he's terrible. But no, maybe the long hair does have something to do with it. Who knows? Maybe just distracted by the first trap
I
videos
hope
of him
so.
from TikTok.
Yeah, that could be it. That could honestly be it, to be honest. I mean, he's got the most tackles per 90 in the squad with 1.7. So again, like he is inconsistent, but like there are numbers that look good for him, which is always a plus. But I agree with you in terms of his versatility. Will mean I think he's going to be quite a key player for us in a couple of seasons' time. And again, it's his first season in the club. So echoing just what you're saying, really, it's his first season in the club. It'll take time for him to adapt, and the fact he's had on and off injuries as well, which could play a part in the lack of consistent performances as well. So yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and hopefully for more consistent things next season. So again, you mentioned Lewis-Skelly and wanting to have a little rant, and Lewis-Skelly's our next player, mate. So I'll send it straight over to you
Oh,
to have your little rant, mate.
lovely. I tell you what, Miles Lewis-Skelly has well and truly won me over because when he first kind of came into the team, I was a bit unsure on him. I think one of his first appearances in the Premier League, maybe his first, I'm not actually sure, but it was in that 2-2 draw away at Man City, and when you bring on, like, I think he was 17 at the time, maybe 18, one of the two. But when you bring on sort of like a kid like that, you are a bit like, oh, what do we expect? And he showed in that game, sort of, he's got a bit about him. He's having a bit of back and forth with Holland at full time, kind of rattled him a little bit. But he's really gone on and just absolutely done unbelievably, hasn't he? I mean, in your first season at 18 and you're breaking into the England first team. I mean, I can't think of many players who have done that and been so good. Like I say, you look at the amount of players he's kind of kept out of the team, like Ben White. I know he's a right back, but he's kept him out of the team. He's kept Calafiori out of the team, Zinchenko out of the team. Zinchenko's a multi-Premier League winner, and he's kept him out of the team at 18. And everyone raves about him. I think he's been superb. You look at him against like PSG and Real Madrid, and he looks like he's been playing for 18 years. Not that he's 18 years old. So I'm a big fan. I'm very happy. I think he's one that's going to be in our team for a very long time, and I'm very, very happy with that. Left back, he's nailed down for me for a long time now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. It's been absolutely great to see. And I think it was absolutely criminal he didn't even get nominated for Premier League Young Player of the Season. Absolutely criminal he wasn't even nominated. Gravenberch. How did Gravenberch win it? Like, absolutely insane to me that Gravenberch won that. Like, I don't even think of him as a young player. Like, he's what, 22, 23? So again, yeah, an 18-year-old having his breakout season and getting called up for an England national team and scoring in those big games against Man City and having the level of impact that Lewis Skelly has had, like you said, holding players who are well within their right to be competing and should be getting the better of an 18-year-old who's only making his first season in professional football. You look at how well Skelly's handled all of it. Like, there's been I think you'll have seen it as well, the amount of criticism about him online as well with the Man City game, his supposed arrogance, and then he's had red cards, which rightly or wrongly, from me, an Arsenal fan, he's putting everything on the line to prevent the player getting past. Red card, yeah, probably was. That's fine. We all move on. The fact he got berated on social media for it was just absolutely insane to me. I think, again, like, look at the stats. 93.6% pass accuracy. For the amount of games he's played in his first professional season of football, getting dribbled past every 0.07 as a left back in the Premier League, the most difficult league in the world, dribble past every 0.07 is absolutely insane. In the 95.1% percentile for accurate crosses as well. So, yeah, again, I think all the numbers and the eye test, which is most important, just says he's an absolutely insane player, and anyone who thinks otherwise hasn't got a brain.
Yeah, pretty much. One thing for me, though, I think is a sort of a testament to him is that, especially when he first broke into the team, you could kind of see that rawness, almost that sort of, I don't know the word to use, like vulnerability, like that kind of youthfulness, inexperience. Like, I know you mentioned the red cards. Like, I think there was like a period in the midway season where he was like nearly getting sent off or getting sent off like every single time he played. And that just comes with time. And I think he's really developed on from that into a player that is reliable. I think one that really stands out to me is PSV away when we won, was it 7-1, 7-0? And he got hooked at half time because he was on a yellow and had nearly given away a penalty, which I think was a penalty, to be fair. But I think that was a real turning point for me, where he's kind of like, right, I need to sort of wise up here, and I think he's done that. And like I say, I think he's had a superb season.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think if it was, I mean, you can see that with every player, but the fact that he's a local lad as well, like, I think I'd lose my head even just standing on the Emirates playing in an Arsenal game. I'd lose my head and go flying into challenges as well. I'd just be excited to get there and get stuck in. You got to die for 3 points, don't you? And he does that. And again, like, it's a part of his game he's having to develop and improve on. But we can enjoy it whilst it's here until he gets sent off or gives away an actual penalty. But yeah, again, we'll move on into the midfield now. We spent a fair bit of time on the defence, but in midfield, I think could go a bit quicker. We've got Thomas Partey, who contract is running out. I'm not sure about what the current state of things are. I've heard Barcelona are sniffing around him, which seems quite insane to me. But personally, I think he's had quite a good season. He's only missed one game through injury, which, if you asked us a couple of years ago when Thomas Partey was getting injured, he was when he was our best midfielder, he was getting injured. Like, it would absolutely ruin our season when he got injured. We relied on him so much to be that bit in between the actual midfield and our defence. And you look, he's only missed one game this season, so that's really, really good. But again, like you said, we brought in those players. We brought in Zinchenko, we brought Jesus in, Odegaard, then shifted from being just outside of the Champions League places to comfortably getting it and challenging. Thomas Partey kind of seems in that same bracket of players we kind of need to be moving on from. However, I like our players too much to let them all go. I'm very protective of my players, especially the players that I like. Partey, I think, for me, has been a good servant for us. And I'd like to see, I mean, there's obviously links to Zumbamendi that will be bringing him in. I mean, you look at Jorginho, he's already gone as well. I just feel like maybe giving him an extra year. But again, if he leaves, then so be it. What are your thoughts on it all?
I am very torn on Thomas Partey because I think again he's another one that's a bit hot and cold. Is when he's good, but when he's bad, he's bad. Um, there's a number of times this year that I've just thought he's just lazy. I think we've conceded a few goals where you kind of like wanting to track back and you just see him jogging like he's in the park, and you're like, get back, get a tackle in, and you just watch him in all the replays, and he's just on a leisurely jog through the park. You're like, what are you doing? So it's a tough one. I do think even if we were to land Martin Zubimendi, which it does look like we will, I would like to see him renewed just because I think we don't have the quality and depth. If you take him out of the team, like who's sort of behind him? If Zubimendi gets injured, for example, or Declan Rice gets injured, who have you got? You're relied on, Sambi Lokonga or someone like even like Fabio Vieira, and then you are in trouble. So I think it'd definitely be wise. Would he sign another year? I don't know. I think he's probably coming to that point in his career where he's sort of got one more big contract in him. So, will we have to sign him for 2 or 3 years? If that's the case, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think, he's a good enough player that he can make an impact. I think he has been one of our better midfielders this year. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about him. I think he's all right. I wouldn't complain if he signed, but I'm not going to cry if he was to leave.
Yeah. So I'm very much on the lines of that as well, and I think it does depend on a lot of moving parts. Like if we bring in Zumbamendi, who I presume will be the starting CDM, Declan Rice, potentially in that midfield alongside Odegaard, but then you've also got Marino, who will want to be there. So that's 4 potentially starting midfielders in a midfield of 3. And then you look at backups for those positions. I think a reason why I would keep Zinchenko around is because for me, I'd play him in midfield. I think he's a good alternative for Odegaard. Because we'll get onto Odegaard very quickly. He's the next player we're going to get onto. But I think you look at the amount of like Declan Rice who played so many minutes this season, and he's been really, really good. But I think that could be the worst thing to happen to us is Declan Rice would get injured. And then you look at what have we got in the backups for that. Yeah, we've got Zumbamendi and we've got Marino. But then who do you play in the holding? You could play either one, I guess. Really, you could. But again, I think Partey's a player who I agree, like, if we keep him around for another 1 year, that'd be great. But with him, he's probably thinking of his own best interest, and he probably could get a 3-4 year deal in Saudi and earn an absolute bucket load of money, in which case, then all power to him. Good luck. He absolutely deserves to have that in his twilight years of his career and stuff. But from an Arsenal selfish fan point of view, it'd be great if he stayed for another year.
Yeah.
So touched on Odegaard a little bit there. He's got the most Premier League chances created in the team for Arsenal with 63. He missed 8 games through injury, and he's averaging 1.25 assists per 90 in the Prem, which is in quite high, really. 4.51 chances created per 90 as well, 70 passes per 90, 2.76 dribbles per 90. He is quite literally in that midfield. Like Declan Rice has done well, but I think you look for the creative flair in that team. I think there's a lot of responsibility on Odegaard there, and I think he has not done similar to Saliba. I think he's had a good season, but I think from our own eyes, we see him every single week. We know how good Odegaard can be. He hasn't taken that next step that he has taken consecutively year on year previously, like Saliba has done. And it's frustrating to see. And I think there's a lot to be said about why that is the case. I've seen lots about him becoming a new dad, which is a factor, not a massive factor, but it is a factor in terms of what he's got going on in his personal life, as well as he did have that injury and did miss a lot of games. And he's come back and he does seem to be his cheekbones are a lot more prominent now. I don't know if you've noticed that, but he does seem to have lost a little bit of weight as well. And then if he's lost a bit of weight, he might be, you know, I'm not trying to give him excuses. I'm just trying to find the reasons why, without without trying to sound too sad about it. Or what do you think? Am I making sense, or am I just rambling like an absolute loony?
I think you may be clutching at straws with the weight thing. I mean, I'm gonna agree and more disagree with you, to be honest. I think Erdegaard has not had a good season. I would not class this as a good season. I think over the last couple of years he's been obviously incredible. He's sort of been the heartbeat of Arsenal, and he has had a lot of sort of creative pressure on him. You take him out of that team, who's created chances? Not maybe Saka, but without Erdegaard, he's he's sort of like the heartbeat, really, isn't he? But this year, I don't know. Like I say, there's obviously something going on. Obviously, I know you mentioned that he'd become a new dad, which is a factor. You know, if you've been kept up, till like 2 or 3 a.m., you're not going to really be up for performing on the football pitch, are you? Which is fair enough, but um, he just frustrates me. He's allergic to shooting for some reason. He gets the ball on the edge of the box, and I don't know what he's doing. Just have a pop, mate. He'd probably be in double digits if he had a shot, but he just doesn't do it. And it does really frustrate me when he gets the ball and he doesn't shoot. And I think it's not been his best year. Obviously, I do love him. I think he's been a great servant, and hopefully he can get back to his best next year. I really hope he does, because we aren't as good of a team without him in it, and when he's not performing. So I think it is really important that he gets back on track, and that maybe we do look to the market to maybe bring in someone else that can kind of take a little bit of the load off him, whether that be on the wing or in midfield. I think we do definitely need someone to help him out when he's not necessarily firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that's again why I mentioned earlier that I'd maybe keep Zinchenko in the loop and maybe have him there to potentially put a little bit more to share the load, but also to have that direct challenger, like we've seen with David Raya, by having a competent backup who can challenge. It does bring the best out of you. Maybe that's what Odegaard needs. Like, obviously, he's got the responsibility. That's a lot of pressure in itself. But when you've got that pressure and you go, someone else is trying to get your position in the team, then that could potentially bring out the best of him as well. So, optimistically thinking, we can see an absolute animal in Odegaard next season. But we're Arsenal fans. We don't really have that really in much of a thought, really, to be honest. Moving on to another player who I think's been quite disappointing, Jorginho. I've given him a 4 out of 10 because I generally can't really remember anything he's actually done for us this season. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree with you there. He's not really. I mean, to be fair, like when he was first brought in, he was never brought in to be like a star, was he? He's not really set the world alight. I think he's all right. He comes in, you can see out a game with him. He can pass the ball around like a midfielder should. Uh, that's about it, to be honest. I mean, I don't really know what to say about him. He's okay. I'd maybe give him a 5, but yeah, what can you say? I'm the same as you. I can't actually remember him even playing this year, which maybe is to the detriment of him or what. But he's been an all right signing. Best of luck to him in Brazil, but thank you. You won't be missed. Next,
Yeah,
maybe a
that's
bit harsh, but
a great way to put it. No, I agree with it. You know, he came from Chelsea for 20 million, did a little bit here and there. I think he was obviously like we saw an uptick in performances when he first came, but I think it is at the point now where he's just kind of there to fill the numbers, isn't he? Really, and he's off to Brazil now. Have fun in Brazil, and see you in a bit. But a player who I think we'll both agree has been very good this season, signing of the summer for me quite easily. Mikel Merino, who I've given an 8.5, still holding out on that sacred 9, and no one's getting a 10 because we didn't win anything this year. No one's getting a 10 from me. So there is a 9 lurking around the corner. Mikel Merino's getting an 8.5 from me. Um, Absolute monster in the duels. The ground duels dominates, aerial duels dominates, and his shooting numbers for a midfielder who's played up front, granted, a couple of times, has been really, really surprising. I did not know he had that in his locker until that famous Leicester game where he came on and bagged 2 goals. Absolutely insane performance, and it just carried on. And I think you'll have a fair bit to say about him and his performances in midfield more specifically.
yeah. No, I agree that he's the signing of the season. I mean, it's kind of a best out of a bad bunch, isn't it, really? But he's come in again. You kind of got to give it to him. It's his first year in England, but I think it says something about him that he's played better up front than he has in midfield. That has to, for me, that comes into it. I think at the same time, on the flip side, he's arguably been better than the strikers that we do have, which is kind of a little bit worrying. Um, but no, I think he's all right, kind of middle of the road. I wouldn't maybe go to 8.5. I'd maybe give him like a 7, 6.5, 6.75. I'll say 6.75 for him. Maybe a little bit on the harsh side because he has not a lot to do. But yeah, I don't know. He's okay. That's what I was. He's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I didn't know we were going that specific on the decimal places. 6.75. That's good, mate. Absolutely love it. So my number 9 is next. 9 out of 10. I think my player of the season, Declan Rice. Rice, baby. Here we go.
Yeah.
I think absolute standout performer in the Champions League. Like, just an absolute monster. Like, I'm not even going to go too deeply into that Real Madrid game because everyone knows how amazing that moment was individually. But the amount of games he's played this season, and for me, consistently been putting 7, 8 out of 10 performances that high, it's just been absolutely insane. And just everything about him, he's at both ends of the pitch doing absolutely everything and doing it all so well. Like I can picture in my head 2 times now where he's been the last man. The other team have been on the counter attack, and he's just got rid of it, and he's just dealt with it so calmly. Like there was the one, I think it was it this season or last season against Liverpool where there was like 4 players, and he was just there, not intimidated by the situation at all. Like if that was me, I'd be peeing my pants seeing Mo Salah running at me full speed. So what do you reckon? Is he 9 out of 10 for you, or have you gone with another 0.75?
You know what? I'm not going to go into too many specifics. I'll leave it to 2 decimal places, but yeah, he's up there. I'm actually, you know what? like I say, I agree with you. No one's a 10, but he's closest. I'm going to give him a 9.5. I'm going to push the boat out. I love Declan Rice.
Oh,
That's my only. That's kind of my only kind of thing to say. I love him. I genuinely, I am in love with the man. Like in a bit of a weird way, actually. I think he's superb. I think he's one of the only players that I can think of, and I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but if you think of players in the Premier League, especially that have cost over £100 million, the amount of times that they kind of get clowned, like, oh my god, like Chelsea paid 105 million for Caicedo and he's done this, or they've paid 110 million for Enzo Fernandez. So there's Declan Rice's price tag of 115 million pounds never gets bought up, never. You know what? I actually think we've had West Ham's pants down for 115 million quid. They should be sending the bailiffs round to collect another 115 million because he is absolutely incredible. I absolutely love him to bits. I can't think of a bad game he's had. I'm not. I'm going to stop myself there because I will go on for another hour just about Declan Rice. They'll probably take out a restraining order, so I won't be able to go to any more games. So I'm gonna stay quiet. I'll hand it back to you.
absolutely agree, mate. I think that there's only so much you can say that's not already been said, and I think you said it so well when you said I love him. That's all. That was all that needed to be said. I think that's all you can say. I think that speaks volumes. Like, I completely agree. Like, we have had their pants down. Like the £100 million bargain. Like, who else can sing that? Because none of them have performed anywhere near to that level. Um, yeah, so I'm just too busy thinking about him. Sorry, you've got me on a wavelength now, just thinking about Declan Rice. So we'll move on to the wingers before we both get too distracted. Another breakout player. Another breakout player this time. We've got Ethan Nwaneri, who I've gone with a 7 out of 10 because I think he brings a completely different sort of profile to the team. I think he can play in that sort of Odegaard position, but and I feel that's where he was first brought in, was as an Odegaard substitute. But I feel like he's so much more suited to playing out on the right. Um, he's got the most successful dribbles in the team per 90 with 3.7, which in this day and age, with the amount of wingers who go up the pitch and then pass the ball backwards and are too scared to take on a man or cross the ball into the box nowadays, it's so refreshing to see a young player get the ball at his feet and want to go up the pitch with it or go into the box. And yeah, it's just so good to see. And I think yeah, in his debut campaign, I think is a really, really good place to start. And I think Miles Lewis-Skelly completely gets the crown for young player of the season in the whole Premier League for me. But I think second underneath him is Nwaneri, and I think Gravenberch is a sick man for even thinking he deserves to be up there competing with teenagers. He just an absolute bully, mate. What do you think? Is my obsession with Gravenberch getting too much?
No, I mean, I can't really say anything because, like I say, I am expecting like a cease and assist through the post from Timber and Rice at this point. But no, Ethan Onyeka, yeah, he's an absolute freak in it. He's like 17, and he's just been incredible again. I think you're right. I think he's better on that sort of right hand side where maybe he's not got as much pressure on him to create. I think a couple of times that he has played in Erdegaard's position, you have seen it kind of well on him that like the team's kind of got to go through him, and that is a lot to put on sort of a 17-year-old. So I think you are right in the fact he's better. On that right hand side. Obviously, he's scored quite a few goals for us, quite a few belters actually as well. But yeah, I think one thing you touched on really well was saying that a lot of when you heard about his dribbles, a lot of players go up the pitch and they're a bit scared and they'll go back. I think Nwaneri's not done that. He's played with almost no fear. He will take someone on. He will, you know, take a risk, and it does pay off, and it's refreshing to see. And I think, like Miles Lewis-Skelly, it's nice to see a local lad, an academy player, come through and actually do well and sort of establish themselves. Obviously, you know, I think it's a lot harder to kind of break into the team and get regular minutes in his position, especially with Saka ahead of him or Odegaard, for that matter. But it would be nice to see him get some more minutes. I know it doesn't mean a lot, but I know obviously he's changed his squad number to number 22 as well. So hopefully that's sort of indication that he's going to be a little bit more involved next year.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know he got 22. That's good. That's wow. That's pretty cool, to be fair. Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely, and the couple of proper bangers, some of those goals, really Saka-esque, and like so many people, like Saka's one of those players. You know what he's going to do. You know he's going to cut in, but you can't stop him anyway. And we see wingers try and replicate that for other teams. And we've got a 17-year-old who's learning from the master on how to do it. So if he's even half as good as Saka is now, by the time he gets to Saka's age, then we've got, annoyingly, two very good right wingers. And as we'll get onto a second, a real lacking on the left side. This is where I think we saw a glimpse of the big hammer on Thomas Partey, but I think we're going to start to see it in a second.
Oh
And
yeah.
we'll move swiftly onto that left side. And I think we might be best starting Ellie. I think that might be our best place to start. Warm you up a little bit to then really bring it down on certain few individuals.
No, I mean, yeah, you're
So
still kind of
Martinelli,
chucking me
what
in the
do you
deep end
think?
there. Yeah, Martinelli, tough one. This is how I'll sum up my feelings towards Martinelli. A couple of years ago, the thought of him leaving, it'd be like heartbreak. I couldn't imagine it. He's kind of in the same bracket as Saka. I never want him to leave. Keep him here till he's 35 and ship him off. But now, honestly, if Arsenal were to get 50, 60 million bid from Saudi Arabia, get him gone. I think he's been very, very underwhelming this year. I think he's been a bit timid going forward. I think, as we touched on with Monier, he seems a bit scared. He's not sort of that same explosive player that takes risks. Going forwards. I will. I know we're going to talk about Trossard, individually as well, but I'm going to kind of group them in with this sort of thing I'm going to say is that I was very disappointed with the two of them. When Bukayo Saka was injured, obviously we had Kai Havertz out, Gabriel Jesus out. We really needed someone to kind of step up, and I think it was a brilliant opportunity for one of those two to kind of go right. I'm the main man now. I'll do it, and I think they both had the potential to do so, and neither of them did. Obviously that's where our attack charge really kind of crumbled, didn't it? And like I say, it was just disappointing to see. So yeah, I'd say not to kind of hog the spotlight, but Martinelli for me has been very underwhelming. Very disappointed with his year. Obviously, I'd love him to kind of get back to where he was, because a couple of years ago he was absolutely incredible, and hopefully he can do that. But time will tell.
Yeah, it's really disappointing because I'm quite in the same bracket. When he first came, we had a Brazilian winger. Like that was such a cool prospect to have, and like when he started, he did okay, and then things started to progress, and he was growing. And it was like, oh my gosh, we've got our own Brazilian winger who we bought for pennies, and the idea of selling him never crossed my mind as well, because it was like he's just going to be here forever because he's just absolutely amazing. And every time I think of Martinelli, I think about that goal against Chelsea. That just the speed and the confidence, and just he knew what he needed to do and he did it. And he doesn't have that. I agree now. He's got that, and I think it was when he had that big injury and was out for quite a while. Not last season, the season before, I think it was. And I think he changed, and he again, and it happens, doesn't it? It happens. You have a big injury, and you go out for a while, and you come back, and you're just not the same player anymore. You can't perform at that same level. Never mind improve on those sort of consecutive seasons of development you had. And it's a really sad one, really. And again, 10 goals, 6 assists this season. Like it's not awful, but if you're a starting left winger for the Arsenal who are wanting to win titles, that's not good enough. Um, So I think the reality of it for me is, and we'll move on to Trossard afterwards, so this makes it a bit easier. I'd get rid of Trossard and have Martinelli as a backup and bring in a new left winger. That's what I would do realistically. And I think, because I think Martinelli, he's got enough credit in the bank with me. Not that he cares about the amount of credit in the bank he's got with me, but he's got enough credit in the bank with me that he can be a backup. And when he's needed, he needs to come on and really prove himself. And after a season or two of being a backup and he's not showing that any sort of level of improvement, you're gone. That's the way I'd see it anyway. But yeah, Trossard, 8 goals, 7 assists for Trossard. Lackluster to say the least, I think. I think he's been dubbed as a super sub in previous seasons. Again, the kind of the backup to Martinelli, realistically, who again hasn't performed and like you said, because of injuries, saw more game time and wasn't able to do much with that extra game time. Like, I think his numbers were actually better when he played less, which is never a good thing, really. So yeah, I'll let you swing the hammer. I won't take too much of the time for you.
No, I'm going to try and hold back a little bit. I'm not just like ripping into him. Um, I think he's in a very similar bracket to like Olivier Giroud, where he's too good to be on the bench. Like when he's on the bench, he's bagging goals. He's an absolute bags man. He's too good to be on the bench, but to put it bluntly, he's too crap to start, and that's just a fact. I think you know off the bench, Trossard's brilliant. Gets tired legs. He's tricky. He's versatile. He can come on kind of anywhere across that front line, um, and he's a good option. But to start, he's not someone that you're going to win a Premier League title with, and you're starting 11. Um, would he start at Man City? Would he start at Liverpool? The simple answer is no. I think I do agree. Just to touch back on what you said about Martinelli, that you get rid of Trossard and sort of have him as a number two. I would do that as well because I think Martinelli is still young. He's still got sort of a high ceiling. We know he's kind of got that ability to go on and do well. I just think you need someone in sort of that's really kind of obviously not on par with Saka because I think that's a bit unrealistic, but someone who's sort of similar to that level or can get to that level that's really going to push Martinelli to get better and to fight for his place and kind of almost to put it bluntly, to light a fire up his arse to go like, right, you're not the number one no more, mate. Like you've got to, if you're not going to perform, you're not going to play. Simple as. And I don't think Trossard does that.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth there, mate. I completely agree with all that. So we'll swiftly move on to another player I'm sure you'll be really excited to talk about. And he's played 496 minutes for us this season, and his name is Raheem Sterling. I'll let you take the floor on this one. I don't think much needs to be said.
I'm going to say 4 words: 0 out of 10. Move on. He's genuinely the most pointless signing. He just winds me up. There's one game. There was a North London derby away at Tottenham, and he comes on, and you think, right, come on, you can get yourself a goal. They're here for the taking, and he gets the ball, and you'll be on the counter attack, and he's in. Go on, run the ball. He just stops. He'll just stop. Just have a little wander around, wait for all the Tottenham players to get back, and then pass it backwards. And it's so frustrating. And I guess, when I kind of say it out loud, it is kind of a confidence issue. And I think it's something he has dealt with. Obviously, he has had a decline from his Man City days. And I think for me, that's why he's such a frustrating player, because he's got that ability, there's someone in there that's a special player. Like if we could have unlocked the Raheem Sterling from 2 or 3 years ago, it's happy days, really, isn't it? You're laughing, but it's just not worked out for him. Again, I think it says a lot that, especially when we had so many injuries, Mikel Arteta kind of, he preferred to play Ethan Nwaneri, who's literally a 17-year-old, over someone who's a serial winner with Manchester City, for example. I think it says a lot. See, I know I said 0 out of 10 at the start. I'm not. I'll take that back. I won't be too mean. I think as sort of a squad player, he's got that sort of winning experience, and I think he's okay. I'd give him maybe a 2 out of 10 to be nice, but yeah, he's not been great, and I'm interested to see what you say because I know you might be a bit kinder to him than I am, but.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would go with a 2 out of 10 as well. And without repeating everything you said, because I agree with you, I think the only sort of positive I think I can see is he would have been a good leader to potentially have in the dressing room and someone good for the likes of Anwary and Skelly to be able to speak to and look up to in the dress chat to the academy lads. So that's definitely not realistically what been great. And another player who's had limited appearances this season, Gabriel Jesus. He missed 20 games through injury this season, but he's still got 1.19 chances created per 90, which puts him in the top 84%. 7.9 touches in the opponent's box, which is in the top 87%, and 7 goals and 2 assists. And I mean, I think most of them will be in like cup games against Wigan and Bolton or something. So those 7 goals and 2 assists haven't exactly been well spread out in the important areas where we've kind of needed them the most. So I've gone with a solid 5 out of 10. What do you think to that, and Jesus?
No, I agree with you. I think very middle of the road, 5 out of 10. Obviously, he's suffered quite badly with injuries, and he's going to be out till the end of the year, which is obviously never nice to see for any player. Obviously, he did sort of have that little purple patch where I think he scored like 4 goals against Crystal Palace in 2 games. But other than that, like I say, he's not really set the world alight. I think I put him in the same bracket as sort of Aaron Ramsdale, Alexander Zinchenko that should be moved on. And I think he should. I don't think he's sort of at that level to lead the line for us. I certainly think if we sign a striker this summer, which it's looking like we will do, I think it is the end of Gabriel Jesus. Obviously, I don't think he'll leave this summer, but I think certainly next summer he will be gone because I think similarly to sort of Trossard and Martinelli, it's sort of the same with Havertz and Gabriel Jesus. You're going to pick Kai Havertz over Jesus, aren't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. And moving swiftly on to the last player, our leading top goal scorer in the Premier League, who has missed 15 big chances this season, which is astronomical, in my opinion, for a starting striker whose team finished second in the league. He's missed 14 games through injury, and despite having missed 15 big chances, has got 15 goals and 5 assists. It's Kai Havertz, as I'm sure many people would have been able to guess. I haven't actually written on my notes a rating for Kai Havertz because I don't know. I still can't put a number on it. I think I'd go with. I'm going to bring out the decimal places here, like you did. I'm going to go with a 7.25. And I think the reason for that is 15 goals, 5 assists isn't awful. I think considering he's missed 15 chances as well, like that, if he scored those, that's 30 goals. And then you look, it's a very different kind of season from there. And, I think he does have a lot of value within the team. And I think he's going to come back a different beast as well. Like I've seen pictures of him recently where he's been putting on some actual real muscle. And that's what you want. That's the kind of reaction you want in a player. Like there's been rumours about us buying a striker since last summer. We're now looking like we're very likely to buy a striker. And his response isn't to carry on the same way, it's to do things differently. He's putting on more weight. He wants to be more physically present in the box. So that's great, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do next season. But ultimately, it hasn't been a good season for him. I think ultimately, yeah, I think seven. Did I say 6 or 7.25? I can't remember, but I'll go with 7.25 either way. What do you reckon, Ed?
You know what? I think he gets a bad rap. As much as like I have sort of been a bit harsh on some players, maybe I'm going to be a bit too soft on Kai Havertz because I do have a soft spot for him. I do actually really like him. I think he is a very good player. I think the only thing about him is he's kind of tough. He doesn't really have sort of like a best position. Is he a striker? Is he an attacking midfielder? You know, he's one of them. Like where do you kind of play him? Uh, I think the only issue with him for me is one is physicality, and two is clinicalness. Um, too many times. I mean, he's. I don't know actually how tall he is, but I mean, he's not small, is he? He's at least 6'3". But the amount of times that he doesn't win a header or he's getting knocked off the ball, and you just think, come on, just put a bit of strength in or something. And the clinicalness, I think, is what frustrates so many Arsenal fans. Is uh, he misses so many chances. That's why we need a striker. Obviously we've been linked with the likes of Benjamin Sesko, Victor Gyökeres. I'll tell. Well, I'll bring one example is the Wolverhampton Wanderers game at the Molineux. I think he had like a hat trick of chances that he sitters, and you think if you put Gyökeres there, Sesko there, Erling Haaland, they've got a hat trick. Game's over in the first half an hour, but with Kai Havertz, he's missed all three, and ultimately we don't go on and win the game. And I think that's why he frustrates so many people is that he just can't finish his dinner. Simple as that. But I do agree that he's had an all right season. I think, like I say, I didn't actually realise he'd scored that many goals this year, to be honest. So I'm going to revert back to simplicity. I'll give him a 7, but yeah, there's definitely room for improvement. But I've also, to touch on what you said, I have seen that he's looking like built like a brick shit house. So hopefully next year he's gonna really kick on.
Yeah, so that's it. That's been the pessimistic Arsenal approach to a season review. But yeah, we'll look forward to having our weekly chats, weekly therapy sessions about the pain
Yeah.
that is Arsenal in our lives. So yeah, I've been Ollie, Ed's been Ed, and
Yeah.
yeah, hope to see you guys next week.